Well, 22 years on and they're telling that story again.
Big baby, just get on with the game. Baby.
A bad joke.
I think we're done.
I'm just getting started!
It will be interesting, anyway, all these years on, I suppose.
Well, it was interesting. It was a decent film. I have some issues with it, but I found it entertaining enough. So, for those of you who you might have grasped something from the video I made for the intro, but on the eve of we're going to talk about Saipan. We're going to talk about what worked and what didn't. So this is about on the eve of 2002 World Cup, and Roy Keane's the captain of Republic of Ireland football team. Mick McCarthy is the manager, and the preparations do not go to plan. Roy Keane is somebody who is known for calling out things that he doesn't think are right, being very single-minded, very driven, all in the kind of the pursuit of, professionalism, perfection, and winning, essentially winning. So whatever he does, it doesn't matter as long as he wins. That was the key thing. So like his personality is intense and intense, confrontational, and definitely doesn't compromise. Mick McCarthy, more pragmatic, more firefighter, dealing with situations where teams might need to get out of trouble, or to deal like workmanlike and to deal with things that in a pragmatic sort of kind of pragmatic and forthright way. Is no BS. Like the example being the famous interview. I love all the Mick McCarthy memes. The famous interview goes, "Mick, you've lost 4 in a row. It can't continue." And he goes, "It can." Cracks me up every single time. Now what we've got in here is obviously one of these films, a bit like maybe Bohemian Rhapsody or Elton John film or Rocket Man, or a lot of these modern films with real people in them. Sometimes they feel a little bit like there isn't enough substance there to justify a film, or sanitize. I think Bohemian Rhapsody sanitize certain things to avoid upsetting certain people. This doesn't necessarily feel like that, but it does feel like there maybe isn't enough story there. It's a short film. It is just I think it's it's dead on, it's an hour and a half, which is usually absolutely fine. This film probably wouldn't get as many people watching it if it wasn't Steve Coogan playing Mick McCarthy. Mick McCarthy's like 6'2", 6'3", and a very, Yorkshire archetypal kind of guy, and Barnsley born and bred, I believe. And I think that Mick McCarthy is not very similar in lots of ways to Steve Coogan. Now, that's okay. It's acting, we just have to. But there's a few moments, particularly in the car, where he's definitely more Partridge than he is Mick McCarthy. He tries with the northern accent, which is strange because he's, he is an impersonator. He is somebody who does impressions, or did do impressions for a career. And I don't think this film would ever get made or be seen by as many people if it wasn't for Steve Coogan being in it. And that's a shame in a way, because I'm going to butcher his name, but I think Éanna Hardwicke, who plays Roy Keane, is, I think, really great in this. He distills the essence of what Keane brings, humanizes him enough for us to understand his point of view, as opposed to just poor old Mick McCarthy, feeling kind of sorry for him. The relationship with his wife, I think, is played very well, probably better than the sort of more cartoony Mick McCarthy and Alice Lowe's wife, where it's more like, come on, go paint the fence when you get back. Like Roy Keane's one, with who I think she's called Harriet Keynes, and I think I imagine, I don't know enough about Roy Keane in terms of I've not read his books or anything, but his wife must be from Manchester area, so she's she's kind of juxtaposing some of the things that about the Irishness of Roy Keane and that kind of thing. Like he's very forthright about Mick McCarthy not being Irish enough, and I guess this kind of asks about conversations about identity and cultural identity, and like in America sometimes there's people who are seen as like not being black enough or not being in this case not being Irish enough. And there's lots of things related to the what were called the Troubles and things going on in Ireland. So there's a lot of social and really emotional issues that maybe people played into this, depending on what side they took as well. Somebody who the Irish heroes are kind of absolutely lauded, and then by a massive percentage of the population, like I'd imagine Conor McGregor's still very, very popular, but there's a sort of more socially conscious group of people over there who probably can't stand the guy and think that he's a really bad example. And I think probably on a lesser level, because I don't think Roy Keane has done anything to the level of that, his personality is definitely, people are fond of saying this these days, but polarizing. So I hope that people don't watch it and just think, oh, it's not, like Mick McCarthy, it doesn't quite come off that way, and kind of forget how good Éanna Hardwicke is in his role. He's great. He's really, really good. Now, what I will say as well, sometimes with things like this, as a fan, you watch stuff, but also I guess they have to be careful not to just do fan service where it's like, hello, footballer Stephen Reid. I'm footballer Roy Keane. How are you today? Hello, Jason McAteer. That's what you have, just to tell us who the people are. And I'm not saying it's as obvious as that, but there are definitely moments where he's like, you're young, Stephen. And, it's like where there's a little bit of expository stuff going on because we might not know who these people are. Or if you're a football fan, watching it, they might want to know who the people are. It's a funny balance to strike. I mean, if the Irish FA guy was just like the Irish FA guy in this, I think he's called Dickie Maloney, and there's kind of, he's like a character out of Father Ted just popped into the film, then you kind of sympathise more with Roy Keane here. It's just that Mick McCarthy gets the brunt of it, and I think that's the issue always with Roy Keane, which is that yes, in his head, he is absolutely justified for doing what he's doing. And there's an element of you that agrees with him. You're like, it is unprofessional. Like there's some of these things that they don't got the football, the pitch is in bad condition, the food is not up to standard because he's expecting, the tip top, and they've had a long time to prepare. The other side of that is, why target Mick McCarthy about that? Well, because he doesn't like Mick McCarthy, because he's always had issues with him because there is a grudge there. And he's definitely somebody who holds grudges. You see him on TV and the podcast, there'll be moments where he just drops something in about somebody who's maybe said something about him 4 or 5 years ago, whether it's Michael Carrick's wife or whether it's John Walters, the footballer John Walters. He has to get, because he's so single-minded and driven, he has to get the killer blow in. He has to get the thing. And in this case, this isn't Mick McCarthy's fault. He works for the Republic of Ireland, and the people, the FA of Ireland, had time to sort all this out and put these things in place for him. What Mick McCarthy's doing is he's not tearing the place down about it because he's being pragmatic. He's just dealing with what he has to deal with. Plus, he's experienced a lot of the Jack Charlton era where it was kind of a bit on a smaller scale. So there's a bit there. You can kind of definitely see both sides, and I think a lot of the public could definitely see both sides as well. It all depends on what it is. So yeah, you do see some characters, and you think, oh, is that supposed to be that person? Is that supposed to be that person? Poor old, I think it's Healy who gets called. He's like, Colin Healy. He's like, oh, not Colin Healy. Maybe it's Colin Healy. He says, I'll bring Colin Healy in if you go home. And he's like, oh, if you've got Colin Healy. I was thinking, it's Colin Healy watching that going, yeah, all right. I was no Roy Keane, but geez. So yeah, it's a bit of an interesting one. And like how things were leaked to the press. It's interesting to then watch the clips over the thing, and you think, oh, this might have better been served as a documentary, maybe. But actually, I don't know. I'm not sure about that. One way, really. It definitely is a film. Like there's a film there. Do you have to be a football fan to get this? Possibly. Is it explained enough why the things matter to him? Maybe a little bit, but yeah, it's hard, isn't it? Sports things. Do you have like a really great sports film brings you in to a sport that maybe you don't like, and you still enjoy it. Like you still you don't have to be knowledgeable in that sport to enjoy the entertainment of the film. I'm not sure this quite does that. This is a good, solid film. Like I say, I think Éanna Hardwicke carries a lot of the heavy lifting in this. It'd be interesting if somebody else had played Mick McCarthy. And I'm a massive fan of Steve Coogan. Like, I love the guy. Like, we're very similar backgrounds, very similar. Like, I feel like sense of humor, sensibility. I'm a massive Partridge fan. Like, love Alan Partridge. Everything from Alan Partridge except Stratagem, which I went to see, which was awful. But love Alan Partridge. So, and the trip, and yeah, I'm just a fan. But like, I don't know. A, does the film get made without him, without repeating myself? And B, would it be better with somebody else? Possibly, but then I don't know. Would I have even got to see it? Would it got made? I don't know. So this is written by Paul Fraser and directed by Lisa Barros Dessar. Hope I'm saying that right, and Glenn Leyburn. They've done a few films. She has done like similar kind of things. One of them is on the Disney Plus at the moment, which is called Good Vibrations, following Terry Hooley, who's a record store owner in Belfast, and the developing punk rock scene. So that was from 2012. Ordinary Love, which is about it's quite a hard going one with Liam Neeson, and he's like, his wife has got breast cancer in there with Leslie Manville. Which I believe was very well received. So it's interesting. This one, it's an interesting choice of movie. It's definitely something that people have wanted to talk about for a long time. It's been talked about on podcasts. Everyone who's there has been interrogated. So if you're a fan and you've sought this stuff out, it's not going to be a surprise to you. But the sort of letting the naivety of speaking to a journalist and then saying like, don't forget to only release this after the World Cup. Another thing that maybe was overlooked was how successful they were. They got through to the knockout stages. They only lost on penalties. So Mick McCarthy was able to galvanise and do a really good job here. Lose on penalties to Spain is no shame whatsoever. They were definitely they did really, really well in this World Cup. So without Roy Keane. And that's maybe overlooked. That might be worth mentioning, I suppose, from my point of view. I find him funny. I find him funny how he has this lot of sort of a grudge-bearing side, and then there's definitely like a softer, good family man, obviously, private life, and also quite knowing that he's about his own personality, but equally he's somebody who has injured people on purpose, and he is somebody like seriously career-ending injured people on purpose, and he is somebody who holds grudges against people who've maybe said something mean about him years and years ago. So he's quite an interesting, flawed character, and you don't get to see all of that, obviously, but you do get to see a really you get to see how it escalates. And I think Éanna Hardwicke is the absolute star of this film. He's done a really, really good job. I'd be interested to see him what he does in the future, who he plays in the future, and kind of what happens in his career. I was having a look earlier on and seeing what's coming up for him. He's in a film called Lakelands. He's in which I haven't seen, but it's on my watch list. I think it's about a footballer again. I think he may even plays a footballer, gets attacked on a night out, and then he has to deal with the injury side of it. He's in. He plays the young William Tell. So he must be quite a young guy. He seems to be a theatre-based guy. He's in one of the National Theatre Lives that's coming up. He's in the post-production for the film Ancestors, which has got Rupert Everett in it. And Christina Hendricks. So that's quite a big film coming up, set in the 80s. So yeah, we'll see how he goes, but he does a really good job in this. We're feeling like quite a thin, or small period of time, and it moves along so fast to get all this info out there about the character in a way that doesn't feel like him just telling you how it is, and like it just being Basil exposition. He does a really good job with this script. Maybe Steve Coogan had less to work with. Maybe his stuff was a little bit more cartoony. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'd love to know what you think about it. It's currently on Prime. I'm sure you can find it in other nefarious ways if you wanted to. And yeah, let me know if you've seen it, what you think about it. It's definitely a good 3 out of 5 for me. I enjoyed it. And yeah, football films. What other football stories are like this that we could watch, you know, with the drama, without it just being a documentary? Like there's a great One Night in Turin is a great documentary about the England World Cup thing, but only because I was a kid watching it, and there's nostalgia and there's heartbreak. There's all kinds of stuff there. And that one you probably would have to be a football fan to enjoy. It's hard to make. Could you make a football film like those? I never watched those films. Goal. Could you make a football film like that and enough people watch those who weren't football fans? I don't know. Bend It Like Beckham, I never saw that either. But again, they're not about special, real, actual events in football. Could you make one? Like there's a Maradona documentary was very good. But again, it's a documentary. And he's definitely somebody who, you know, there's enough crazy stuff going on in Maradona's life where you could make a whole 3-hour film about it and it would seem very high concept. Anyway, Saipan. That's my thoughts on it. Surprisingly, I did not come away from it just being a Steve Coogan fanboy. I came out of it with a slightly different take. So that's why I wanted to talk about it and see what you thought. Yeah. Favorite sports films. What are your favorite sports films? And should I check any out? And ones about real people. It's more difficult, isn't it, to pick those ones, because we could talk about Field of Dreams and things like that, but I'm not talking about that. Or any given Sunday, blah blah blah. Anyway, enjoyed that. Good chat. Keep it up, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.